Jubilee just released a debate between Jordan Peterson and 20 atheists. Now, most people, when they come across this, they will just skip over, unless you really follow Jordan Peterson. Most people will just skip over because it's like, okay, these debates, they're not useful for anything. I mean, yes, you come up with insights of, yes, my side won or no, your side lost, but there's actually no practical use for the everyday life. Go my channel is how do we go with these theological areas of the Bible? How do you put it into the everyday life within your faith, marriage, and again, dancing? So let's give it a try. On this one, we're going to be talking about claim number one: atheists reject God, but they don't understand what they're rejecting. And in this one, we're going to be just looking into Cade and Jordan Peterson. This one comes into the typical I was Catholic once, or I know my faith. I went to Catholic school. In this particular case, I even went to seminary. I studied. I did my research on this, and here's why. Again, obviously, there has been so many more research and studies from really smart persons that's still Catholic, but they tend to use this rhetoric of "I know all, and now I can actually reject your claim of what you're saying." Again, it's I just call it a simplistic way to prove you're wrong because I know everything about the Catholic faith. So, in this idea of Cade, sorry, yeah, it is Cade, he's putting perspective of okay, your claim cannot be implied into everyone because we have many definitions of it. So you cannot, Jordan Peterson, you cannot be making that assertion. So, but this is where I can see that there's this idea of Cade of using I knew everything within the Catholic faith because of the specific statements that he's going to be making to Jordan Peterson. Because he says the average Christian. Again, so he's going through a very simplistic approach. And then, so instead of going into the more rigid aspect of this is what the Christian faith believes, the highest part, he goes like to the average Christian. So again, the other statement he says, when you answer or you never answer the question, what is God? You go to this runabouts. Again, so he's not necessarily trying to answer the question, the statement Jordan Peterson going at this moment. He's just going into this grand statement, big statements to contradict, to say, you see, you cannot make that statement, Jordan Peterson, that we reject something that is not known. Okay. So, and then he goes into saying, because there are many gods and there are many interpretations out there for Bible verses that Jordan Peterson is talking about. Again, so he's just missing the point of trying to understand really what Jordan Peterson is saying. Because he's kind of trying to work, okay, how do you define your way of saying God? And that's what Jordan Peterson asks. He is more of the asking questions. And then the way you ask questions, then you're going to be able to work with them and see their process of where they're lacking in their faults or logic. And then there's one interpretation, that's kind of what he says, but everyone disagrees, in that one. And if he actually read, and like he says, seminary and actually study, you're going to see that there's more unity on the interpretations within the Catholic Church. So that's where his statement just rubbed me the wrong way. But the way Jordan Peterson, kind of he puts us to put it within his framework to make it work is going from chaos to order, and that's what made Cade and said, okay, well then if that's your way of saying it, then we are all religious. And I really like how Jordan Peterson put it that way, but put it as a process of steps, okay, and making him seeing where are his faults, because again, he's trying to prove a particular point. Okay, now what is this goes into practice? Into okay, this is our faith, right? The faith area, debating theology with words. But how does it put into practice with the marriage? Okay, this is where I'm going to be putting. When there's these arguments, discussions between partners, we really have to listen to what the situation is, and then don't go into big statements of you always do this, you have done this before. So because we come with this notion of bringing things that come from previous arguments, and or you have something in particular you're struggling with that has didn't finish before, and you're trying to bring it into this particular discussion that you're having with your partner. That's the same thing that was Cade says. Okay, average Christians, or you have said it before, So he's bringing the big statement that Jordan Peterson has done in the past, his other talks, and bringing it in within this particular question that he's saying of Jordan Peterson. But that's the same thing when we do in arguments. We don't try to listen specific what's going on with this question, with this issue, and let's not focus in bringing things from the past and not being oversimplistic of you always do this. Especially specifically in asking questions. Okay, what's going on here? What area do you not understand? Okay, and going about it and breaking the area so we can communicate and understand each other. Because again, one of the areas that exists, there's many interpretations and everyone disagrees. So this making and throwing bombs into the argument, like okay, you always do this, or you always change the situation. That will not help the situation. Like if you're trying to come up with an agreement to see what is the actual problem, what solution, is try to take your time and try to understand the other person. Now, what do I mean? So that's kind of with partners, kind of how I put it with dancing, my metaphor way of explaining things is if I was to say all people that go to the movies can learn how to dance, then you have to be paying attention of what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. Okay, I'm saying that there's a possibility that if you have gone to the movies, you will be able to learn how to dance. So I'm not saying that for sure you are already a dancer. No. So there's this process that you're gonna have to be going, kind of like what I was saying. Okay, so you have your basic steps or side steps that you can use when you go into the movies that we can implement it into dancing. Side steps, walking, and then the triple steps and rocking steps. And what Kate was trying to do is, okay, no, because whenever I go walking and I can trip, and whenever, again, so yes, you can grant situations where you just want to disprove the case, but you're not trying to understand the person. He's saying it's not that there's certain areas or certain situations when you're doing something in the movies theater that you would not actually translate for dancing. So not saying that every person that is on the movie theater is dancing. So listening to the person, listening to what he's saying and what he's not saying. And the powerful teacher on Peterson, it says, trying to see and trying to show the person where he might be getting lost. In the case you are the one bringing the situation, trying to help your partner. Like, hey, this is where you might be getting lost. I'm explaining you maybe in this way. Okay. Uh, right now, when I say like moving into the aisle, going to the side. So again, using specific examples to help guide the person. And within marriage, trying to help have the understanding and the grace that they might not be understanding something. So trying to see and go around to see where they're getting lost, and then focus on that. Like, okay, maybe I'm losing you here. That's what Jordan Peterson's trying to show. Like, okay, Moses, and he's like, okay, no, everybody disagrees. Like, okay, well, if we are going to come and say you're gonna disagree in everything that I said, there's no way you continue talking. And then that's what, okay, well, it can be a interpretation. And they say, okay, I agree, it can be a interpretation. So going step at a time. So it was very specific when it says, I say a, not the. And then this differentiation of a and the happens again later on when Jordan Peterson says, okay, the, and he said, okay, a, because you have to be careful with, okay, we are having a problem on issue with specific words. Okay, then I have to be extra careful here to make sure we are understanding each other, where we're getting lost, and where we can actually improve this conversation. So thank you so much, and hopefully it's helpful, and you can see how it's actually practical to listening to hear, and it can actually help within relationships, and can actually help within dancing, or I use dancing to help you understand the concepts. Okay, I'll be doing the next one.